Mr. Gillespie, Ms. Gillespie, and Ms. DuBoise, I'd like to thank y'all for participating in the Video Oral History Project. Humbly, we appreciate your time and for coming out and doing this oral history interview.
You're welcome.
Let's start with each of you tell me your full name and where you're from. We'll start with Mr. Gillespie.
Okay.
Go ahead. So, give me your full name.
My full name?
Yes, sir.
Clint Gillespie.
Okay. And where are you from, Mr. Gillespie?
Mississippi.
What part?
Campbell County.
Okay. All right. Very good. Miss DuBoise.
Huh?
Very good.
Okay.
Miss DuBoise.
I am Levonis Gillespie DuBoise from Mobile, Alabama.
Okay. Miss Gillespie.
I'm Ruth Gillespie, Mobile, Alabama.
Now, someone tell me, Miss DuBoise, tell me how everybody's related.
This is my father,
Mm-hmm.
and Clint Gillespie, and this is my mother, Ruth Gillespie. Ruth Olivet James Gillespie.
Okay.
Originally the James family.
Now, I need for y'all to tell me how y'all come to be in Trinity Gardens. Where'd y'all start out from?
I started out in Trinity Gardens.
I was real here in Pritchard,
Okay.
and it was during World War II, and housing was shortage.
Mm-hmm.
So they were selling houses over there in Trinity Garden, small 18 by 12 buildings. And so I went to purchase one so I'd have somewhere to live because there was shortage of houses then.
Miss Gillespie, would you mind telling me who your parents are?
John Carter James and Betty Rocker James.
Okay. And where were your parents from?
They were from Clark County,
Okay.
Alma, Alabama.
Okay. Very good. Now, when did y'all move to Trinity Gardens?
1940, I moved to Trinity Garden
Mm-hmm.
because my parents, they lived in Pritchard on Craft Highway.
Okay. And Mr. Gillespie, what kind of work did you do before you retired? What kind of work did you do?
Before I retired?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I was, I worked at Brooklyn Field
Okay.
first, and then I did construction work. And I worked at Gulf Lumber Yard for about 2 weeks.
Okay. And
then I went from Brooklyn Field to the shipyard.
what kind of work did you do out of Brooklyn Field?
I worked in the assembling aircraft engine.
All right. Now, Miss DuBoise, how many brothers and sisters do you have?
Well, I have 6
Could you name them for
brothers
me?
and sisters. 2 are deceased,
Okay.
and all of them are younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
My brother Clint Gillespie Jr. is deceased. My sister Marianne Gillespie Green is deceased. My sister Benita Gillespie, now she's Dura. She lives in Atlanta, Georgia. And my sister Darlene Gillespie Henderson lives in Mobile. My brother William Gillespie lives in Oceanside, California. And my sister Alice Gillespie Pruitt lives in Mobile.
Now, what was the homestead, the home address that y'all all were raised in?
1717 Jesse Street in Trinity Gardens.
Now, I understand that this is your parents are some of the first folks who moved to Trinity Gardens. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, my mom moved in 1940.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if it was spring, summer, or fall.
Spring.
In the spring of 1940, and purchased some property. there to live, so she was a young adult then.
Mm-hmm.
And later she met my father, and he was living in Trinity Gardens. So.
Could somebody tell me, Mr. and Mrs. Gillespie, how y'all met?
By both of us being newcomers to Trinity Garden, we were at dry cleaner's place when I first saw him. And so we started talking from there until we got married.
What year was that y'all got married?
40.
1940?
Directly after I moved in Trinity Garden and I met him, then we got married.
Now, a lot of folks in Trinity, tell me a little bit about the history of Trinity Gardens. How and why did it come about as a community?
Well,
Go ahead.
You tell her.
well, during that time when we had World War II, we had a shortage of homes in Mobile. And people was doubling up in rooms trying to, because they were doing work at the shipyard in Brooklyn Field, and different one was moving there. And so they didn't have enough houses. So Albert Perkins, he had that property. And he bought some small buildings from Crichton and had them moved out there after he had it lotted off, and moved those small buildings out there. So people were glad to get it, because in the beginning they was doubling up in a room, you know, in homes. So with a little small building of 18 by 12 was quite a space for them at that time. And so we moved out there, and later on added more. But during the World War II, lumber was shortage too, and you couldn't build a house.
No,
so,
really?
They was sending it overseas somewhere. Anyway, you couldn't buy lumber to build a house. And so we was kind of glad Mr. Perkins made that space, you know, for us, for the black people to live.
So,
Perkins was white.
He was right.
so Trinity Gardens is a post World War II neighborhood,
That's right.
black neighborhood.
That's
That's
right.
right.
Okay,
It's still predominantly black.
is that right?
We have maybe 2 white residents.
Okay. Ms. DuBoise, as first of all, what is the family's home church?
Nazarene.
Where's that located?
Now it's located in, I don't know what you call it, community.
It's
On the service, it's on the belt line,
Okay.
and I don't know the address. It just moved out of the community in 98.
To a new facility.
Right.
Okay. Where did all y'all go to school?
Well,
The
I
very
went to
beginning.
I went to school in Trinity Gardens. Well, from the very beginning, I went to Samuel Chapel, AME church, when I was real small.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I went to Trinity Gardens School, and it burned down. And so all of the children had to be sent to a different school. So my parents at that time decided to send me to Trinity Lutheran, to the community school, which was a church school. It wasn't public, and they had to pay money for me to go there. So I went to Trinity Lutheran, and when I got into the 7th grade, I think it was maybe 6th grade, we went back to Trinity Garden School because it was middle high then.
Okay.
And it was a high school for about 6 years. So I graduated from Trinity Gardens High School. That was before integration. So left Trinity Gardens High School and went off to college to Talladega in '68. So graduated from Talladega, left there, went to work in Atlanta, Georgia.
Before I forget, could you tell me a little bit about your grandparents?
On my dad's side or my mom's side?
Both.
Okay, my grandparents on my father's side never met. Both are deceased. I hear my father talking about them, but I never met them. I did know my grandfather on my mother's side, and I did know my blood grandmother, but he married again, and I know my step grandmother, because she's still alive now. I think she's about 93 or 94. So my grandfather was a minister, and on my mother's side, Reverend John Carver James. And he lived in Trinity Gardens for a while. But he was sort of like a rolling stone. He moved around the country a lot.
Okay. Where was Reverend James from?
Clark County up in Alma, Alabama.
Okay.
And they moved to Chickasaw Terrace. And then when his first wife died, he sort of changed his lifestyle and moved around a lot.
When y'all were in Clark County, what did he do for a living?
Well, he worked for Honest Construction Company. They're building highways. He helped to build 45, Highway 45.
And the viaduct, which is no longer in Trinity Gardens and on St. Stephen's Road, because it was torn down, I think, in the 80s. It had been there like 50 or 60 years.
Now, when Mr. and Mrs. Gillespie, with your family, where in Trinity Gardens or near Trinity Gardens did y'all go shopping?
When we shopped in Pritchett.
Whereabouts?
The city of Pritchett. And then we would shop some down in Mobile in the belt line out there in the mall.
In 1940, when you first moved out there, Ms. Gillespie, what were the boundaries of Trinity Gardens? Like, where did it start and end and everything?
We are from what we call Pritchett Lane to 45, Highway 45, back down to what we call now where the interstate is. There was, at that time we didn't have an interstate, it was just, open. But when they built the Interstate 65 through that, then that kind of give us a boundary on that side.
And that's where the boundary is now, considered for the neighborhood?
It was swamp.
But us it was called Rag Swamp. And that's where it was cleared out and lotted off for houses.
Now, Rag Swamp also, it must have been a long swamp because it was down there near the mall too, wasn't it?
This was the top of the swamp, the entrance of the swamp.
Oh.
On the 45 side.
There was a big ditch there that y'all talked about years ago. That you had to put some planks across to leave 45 to come into Trinity Gardens because you only had that one street. First Avenue.
First Avenue was the only street that came up in there?
At that time.
In the 40s.
Oh, okay.
And you had to do a trail. You walked the trail to different houses, sort of like you were in a rural community. They were glad to have that ditch because it helped with the drainage. It was mostly mud, the black mud and snakes and gators and lamp peels and a whole lot. And
water, we had to wade water up to your
it was
hips.
a swamp.
When it rained, the water was standing, we had to wade in.
I remember that. A lot of water all the
Before
time.
it got drainage in there.
A lot of trees.
I'm trying to figure out, what you had to build the houses high?
No, the houses look, when it rained, they look like little boats in there.
I would imagine.
Mm-hmm. The water wouldn't come up in the house. It would, you know, on piers enough, but so it wouldn't come in that building, but surrounded, all up under it.
When did the city first get that all straight?
Oh, the city didn't get it straight. We
Still
was in
straight.
the county at that time, because we had been there for years before the city took over.
There was a turmoil because we were first in Pritchard. The first city we were claimed as being a part of Pritchard. I remember in the early 50s was when it was a big political issue if we were going to go into Pritchard or we were going to become a part of Mobile because we were county. And I think it was in the 50s, wasn't that the 50s?
I think, I forgot now what year it was.
When we became a part of Pritchard. Pritchard had some.
Pritchard had the police jurisdiction.
All right.
Actually, we was in the county. During the 40s and the 50s, we come in, we had a vote on where we going to Pritchard or Mobile. Cause wasn't getting no support from the city at all. The county had the road, kept up all the roads.
Right.
We was less than 3 miles. We were more closer to Pritchard than we were the city of Mobile. And so they Pritchard gave us the police jurisdiction in there.
All right.
That's all. Not support, no garbage, nothing like that.
Okay.
It just was the police.
No other
We
service.
got into the summer, some have them out there. We called the city of Pritchard.
How about for fire?
Huh?
How about?
Fire? Well, Pritchard had the fire support
Okay.
at that time. They had the police jurisdiction.
Okay.
That's all. At that time, until we voted, they go into the city of Mobile.
Was there an immediate change? Was there a noticeable change when you moved from the Pritchard jurisdiction into the Mobile?
Well, at the time when we went into Pritchard, we didn't have no water. We had our own water pump put on. Wasn't no city water out there at all. And Pritchard was the first one to give us city water supply. And we had we bought we had so much houses catch a fire, so we asked Pritchard would they give us some pipes in their water supply, and they give us hiring. We had to pay $500 for each hiring. We had 2 hiring in our community, and we bought 2 hiring. The civic club bought it.
Tell me about, okay, that's really...
Trinity Garden Civic Club got organized.
Really, we organized a civic club.
Okay.
We had 2 or 3 civic clubs out there, but we began them and got ourselves together, and we become better perfected downtown with 1 civic club. So we did that.
So y'all, in effect, had your own kind of political representatives who would go...
We didn't have no representatives.
Tell me about how that worked, this Trinity Garden Civic Club.
The civic club was supported by the people in that community.
The neighborhood, we would, the men would...
We would go out there.
They would work the street.
That's right.
Because we didn't have, they started, since the water was so high, they would dig ditches, and the women would cook and feed them while they were working on the ditches, digging ditches.
And the men would have...
And then we got cross ties and made bridges, so we, after they dug the ditches, so we could go from one street to the other one.
Right. We did our own drainage system.
Coming down the cross ties, my wife mentioned that cross ties. When the railroad would take out ties, we were asked there for the ties they taken out. The community, we were the civic club.
Right.
We had a group of me. We organized a civic club out there. And we were asked, and we would go, and I was the treasurer of our civic club for years and years. During that time, I was the treasurer.
Right.
And what we would do, us men, as we got to it's like Jesse Street, but into First Avenue, we start up there first, and we went, and we couldn't get across to First Avenue. We had to dig our way or get some cross ties to put in there. So we did that, and we the one had truck. This is Jimmy Starr at the time. He had a truck. So you want to know the history of Trinity Car? Well, Trinity Car, we did that. I'm part of that.
They were the engineers.
And the women, then they were, well, they my wife said they function cooking on a Saturday and having dinner for us.
So you all would do this on your days off?
Huh?
On
That's
weekends?
Yeah, what we did.
And after hours?
That's correct.
That's a lot of work.
In the meantime, some men went this first shift, or what did it, second shift, the evening shift, and then they would work 3 or 4 hours. And then the men in the day, they didn't work, they had night shift, midnight shift or something. Well, they would work during the daytime. And we were cutting ditches in where the road ran into each street, such as Main Street. And wherever the car come across there, we'll put cross ties there. Now, we had a conflict with the railroad.
What
they did, can I tell it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the railroad, we asked them, would they give us ties? We asked the men for them ties. And they did cross ties, which is railroad. And they, somebody reported that we was taking the railroad ties, what they had put downside the track from the haul away from the railroad. And they called the law on us. And one Sunday they come out there to arrest me. I wanted the men to be arrested. Because I was a part of the civic club, and I had an office, I holding position. And then they come there, and all of them, they had my house there, just crowded. And I showed them what we was doing with them cross ties. We had asked for them, carried them all around. I got in the car with him and rode them around the law, which was the high shade. And they come there to arrest me. And yeah, this is what we were doing for the community, not for my own use.
Right.
See, I had trucks too. I had a Russian Jeep at that time, Army Russian Jeep. I could go through the mud anywhere. Pull cars and trucks out. And they work me at night. Some guys get drunk, they run off in the ditch. I go pull them out. Sometimes I pull them out. Then the other in the back, he drunk, cuss me out, and I just stopped doing that. Wouldn't pay me no harm. And so I had a hard time out there in the Trinity Garden. And now some of the water, we would pump out the ground. We had hand pumps. Didn't have no electric pumps. Hand pumps. We had lamps, kerosene stoves. Lots of women, they get to talking. Their husband, he out working, she run them out, and a pot them ball in the kerosene stove explode. Right. And set this house on fire, set this house on fire.
Close
and
together.
They burn up 5 or 6 houses. Right. Before we get a fire truck. The fire truck couldn't get to us sometimes. Because of the ditch. The road was, we didn't have no getting across the road. So we had a hard time out there in the city of Mobile.
When the railroad company found out what we were doing with those ties, and they could sue us, they had to sue the city or the county, whoever it was. Then the county came out there, and that's when they started coming out there just trying to help, build the roads and things, grade things.
We had built the roads.
They were
we had done the ditches.
Yeah, we had
We
men in
did
the
it, but
ditches.
they couldn't rest
Like my
us
wife said.
because it was the county, it
We didn't
belonged
have-
to
That
the
been going on
county.
50 years
We didn't
ago.
have,
It's a
yeah, it's
long
been
story.
over in the 40s.
Yeah,
It's been
a long
60
time.
years ago.
Long story.
Right.
So most of the men are dead. We find one or two. I'm happy to be one of them. He's still living.
And women.
So we had a
Don't
hard
forget the
time.
women.
Huh?
Don't
I'm
forget the
still
women.
here.
Oh, well, the women did cook, I said.
Well,
They did.
back then, the women weren't thought of as being equal, although all across the country, women were supposed to be
Yeah,
equal.
women did
Supposed to
not.
be able to vote and smoke cigarettes, all that kind of stuff.
Speaking of voting, where did y'all vote?
We,
Huh?
when we first started,
Where did you
we
vote?
voted out there in, well, it was Pritchett over there,
We voted on Chestnut Street.
In
in,
Crichton.
And first we
That's
voted,
Pritchett.
they
That's
had a vote in
Pritchett.
Pritchett,
Chestnut
so we
and
was
Chestnut
had that.
Street.
but we
We
had
was
to
on
pay,
Chestnut Street, Miss lady was, what's your name, Clyde Stowe there, what is his mama's name? But anyway, we voted at Clyde Stowe there, right off of Chestnut Street.
In Pritchett.
At that time.
in Pritchett.
And when that was in Pritchett.
Was only a few of us to vote because you had to take a test and you had to
Pay the
pay
poll
poll
tax.
tax. And so,
Miss Gillespie,
Uh-huh.
why they make you pay a poll tax?
well, because you were black, that's why. Because the white wasn't paying no tax.
Only the blacks
Yeah,
had to
yeah.
pay.
Black, that was to keep you from voting.
Right, keep you from registering.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And only the blacks had to take the test, and only the blacks had to do the poll tax.
now, they had pretty smooth in that. Now, we all taking a test. But
The
the
whites
black
too?
couldn't, yeah, they were taking a test.
Okay.
Well, what really was
No,
what
no
happened?
white wasn't taking a test.
Wait a minute, let me say this, if I'm wrong.
Well, I'm telling you now, you're wrong, because they
Well,
weren't taking
if
the
I'm wrong,
test.
I'm wrong. But now, it's been a long time. But what was happened, the white could pay more. I was down there, I've been down there
No,
2 times.
what
They were
what
paying.
actually happened, you had to line up to go in there, you know, to register to vote. And they would take the white in there, and you was at the tail end of the line. And then when they go in there, some didn't quite understand, and they turned them away. But we did have a good white person in there, and you know, God gonna always have one in the place, but. And he would tell those that didn't understand, he would get there and tell them, you know, show them how to do it.
A lot of the folks from Trinity Gardens, where were they from? Were they also from Pritchett, or were they just from all different kind of places?
They from all over
like the
country.
men you were telling me about that you worked with on the men you were working with the railroad ties.
Like Jimmy Stallworth.
Yeah, where were they from? Most
Well,
of those.
many people that are native Mobile.
Okay.
They was in from all over the
From up there in Wheel
states
Park County
and Mississippi.
Mm.
I'm from Mississippi.
Mhm.
I went to school in Mississippi. I'm a native. And so I came here, you want to know what the history of black was coming in, what was the really history of black folk coming here.
Mm-hmm.
Because where I was living there, the most black went north.
To Chicago.
Chicago, St. Louis, all like that. All my people was
Around
north.
World War II.
Huh?
This is around World
Right,
War II.
World War II. That's
Yeah,
correct. In the
that's
30s.
right, that's correct. And we went, my mother wanted me to come south, because I had a few cousins, first cousin here,
Right, lived in
in
Pritchett.
Mobile. And they was going, she said to my mother, I'm the only boy my mother had.
Okay.
My mother had 2 children. She had 3. I didn't know the baby girl.
What were the two children? What were the two children names?
Girl and boy.
Name
I'm the oldest.
and what is?
My sister named
Mary.
Mary Eliza Gillespie.
Mhm.
And she left. She went north too.
Okay.
She wouldn't come south.
Okay.
She come down here to visit me.
Right.
My mother came to visit me. Cause she encouraged me to come south. Cause I always sort of have cold or something. I was the only boy. She just thought that.
She picked you.
This a son she cared for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way it was. So now, the blacks, jump off one thing to another. But what I want to say, the blacks had to know just about the Constitution of the United States. They passed the test to vote. You want to hear the truth. The white could go in there. just get out just like that. But you be down there all day trying to vote. That was the black. That's what they had on the black. That's the truth. It was hard to vote.
Now,
then we had to pay poll tax.
How much was the tax?
I can't remember what it was.
$1.50 was a lot of money back in the 40s and the 50s.
Yeah, it was. I don't know exactly how much. But mine up to about $40 of what it. I just had to pay all the back poll tax and all that kind of stuff.
When you first registered,
Yeah,
you had to, they would go back. They made it very complicated for black folks.
And so that was right. You would been voting all the time. It wasn't so hard to vote.
Went back from the time your age was that you could vote. Didn't make you pay all that poll tax back, but you hadn't voted and then it wasn't supposed to pay it in the first place.
So you had, hold on, you had to go back and pay back taxes?
Yeah, back poll tax.
You had to pay back poll tax. Now you why you pay back poll tax?
And you 20, you had to pay from 18.
And you to go down there to vote.
At the same time. Both of you talking at the same time.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to get started. That's all right. So y'all go ahead on with it.
That's all right. Look here.
Go ahead, I don't want to get started.
It seems like the folks.
I was in all this.
Yeah.
And I was, here was another thing. Really what put me on want to vote, what really start me off. I always want to, the guy I worked with, if he made $50 made $50 that day, piecework, I would made $25. And the heater was heating for me, he would make the same thing. If he made $100, I would make $75 that day, you know what I'm saying? I done piecework. You didn't believe we make that kind of money at that time. We were doing piecework, wasn't done no.
At Brooklyn Field.
Now, when I first got hired, let me say this, this is serious. Now, when I first got hired, I got hired at 93 cents an hour. Okay. Now, the job I put in for it, I was a laborer at the Gulf shipyard. And I was a laborer. And so, they put me in putting bucket ribbons. That was a bottle maker. I was in bottle maker union. You understand me good now?
Yes, sir.
I was in the labor union, Hunter union. Well, Hunter was the president of the labor union, for the AF and AL. Okay. And then, after I went to bucket ribbons, that put me in the bottle maker union. And that was in the white union. Only way I could get my money to the white union, I had to pay that union because I was making that kind of money. And my money was more than the labor. You was in the labor union. And I had to come up with the money, but I couldn't go to the meeting. I had to send my money to the meeting.
By a white person.
That's right.
The black, he could
pay
pay into it, but he couldn't.
I'm telling you this like it was. This is history now. This is history. Now what set me off, I asked the guy, I said, I can't go in there. No, you go coming from the side door. He didn't say the back door, the side door. I couldn't go in the front door, you understand? And I just, oh my, I got fed up with it. And I said, I just wasn't gonna pay no more money. Well, you in the union, where they had to put a white boy or some, their own race, bucket riggers, in which they couldn't do that work. He could do it, you could find a few white do it. The black was the one to do that hard work. So, okay. Then I want to know, the guy bucking for this white guy, he'll live in the Atmo, Alabama, Atmo, okay. His name is Phil Watson. And he will be off that day. We bucking ribbons, and we had a long run, we could make money that day. And I asked him, I said, man, how come you didn't come in yesterday? I said, I could make me $75 or $100. Now you made $150. I'm talking about that day, at that time. That was back in the 40s. Okay. He said, no, I took off the vote clinic. Said, well, you just don't go and vote. Said, that ain't nothing but a racket. I said, now that guy took off $150 and I could make $100. I don't want to vote for him. I said, well, if he can take off doing that, I'm going to go to vote myself. That's what I said. Then I talked with some of the boys the black, and they wasn't voting either. So they said, yeah, Clint, we're gonna go and vote. I said, yeah, vote. I said, I don't care what kind of money we make $500. I stretched it in. Then we went down and voted quarter-five to quarter-five. Was a guy down there, he was a Jew. When you go in there, he discussed the outline, the paper, what you had to know. You had to know the Constitution of the United States to vote. The black man did. Down in that same courthouse, not the same one, the old courthouse. And,
Downtown Mobile here.
yeah, Mobile. Mobile, that's where it was. That's facts. And we went down there and stayed all day long. And they called me down there. He went, I could read. He knew it. He said, now you go over the question and say, you can pass, Clint. You can pass. Say, he gonna be hard on you though, but you can pass. He was a Jew. I'm trying to think what was
Gonzalez?
it. Huh?
Was it Gonzalez?
Gonzalez.
Yeah, he's still around. Gonzalez is on our
did.
I think he was at the Democratic meeting.
No, Gonzalez did.
Was it?
That Gonzalez.
That Gonzalez is there?
Yeah,
Maybe that was his
now
brothers.
they are a big family.
The Jewish family.
Yeah, it was a big
Cahaly's and the Gonzalez.
They was from Trinity Gardens too?
No,
No,
they
right.
white. They
The
are
Jews.
Jews. They were
They're Jews. They still
They
live
had
here.
their privilege. And so
They still work with
he-
registering people to vote.
yeah,
Okay.
Gonzalez. He used to be there. He used to be one of the official
For the Democrat.
Democrat party at the courthouse where the Democrat used
Right.
to meet at.
They were
And
recruiting
the
blacks to
The
register.
Democrat used to meet at the public, down at the courthouse. Our
Right.
meeting was at the courthouse.
That's right.
Then the Republic want to know how come the Democrat could be and they couldn't meet there.
That's right.
That's what kicked us out.
Right.
And then Gonzalez, you said Gonzalez. But anyway,
Gonzalez.
he pulled us at the Little Flower School.
School, that's where we
That's
used
where
to
I
meet.
went to.
We met
And
there about 30 years.
I carried my oldest daughter down there and
I've been there a long
qualified
time.
her. Okay, did I tell you or not? I might be speaking.
Yeah, I've been there. I went there. I've been there a long
Okay,
time.
I know.
Since the
I know
70s.
you went so much. No.
When
In other words,
nobody
I
did
could
in
tell all
my
the
household,
meetings. I would keep.
and when they
Oh,
become
then I
18,
said
they
to
had, that was a must.
Everybody in the house, when you become
And,
18,
one thing,
you go
what I had
downtown
to
and
do-
register to vote.
Let me say this, please.
Okay, Dad.
One more time. All right. I said, the guy asked me at the shipyard, said, Clint, why y'all want to go not that,
To school.
the school. What school were you going in? What they
We were going to the Democrat, to the
you going to
election school.
No, he talking
No,
about
no,
going
no,
to
when you
when
going to
they in a
Talladega.
grade
Talladega.
school.
She was going to Talladega.
Okay, that
And
was in the
what
60s.
we were pushing for, the girl, first black girl went to school.
At the University of Alabama.
That's right.
Yeah, that's where they sent me
That
in.
belonged girl.
Right.
Okay, well, all right.
They
I
sent me
forget
there when
now.
you all sent me there when I was in the 9th grade. I think.
Yeah, so you could see
So I
where
could see it, and they
Yeah.
wanted me to
Well,
And
go
I
there
told
first.
him, I said, this is my right arm, and I was a ball player. I run a ball club for about, so
He
I
ran
run
the
2 or
first
3 ball clubs.
Baseball
And I had,
club.
I have all my club boys, they had uniforms.
Right.
What-
Deep South.
Deep
Red
South
Sox.
Red Sox.
That was the
Hold
name of
on.
the first baseball team.
Let's talk about that now.
Oh,
Red
Red
Sox. No, you're going to talk about this other, but get this
Such a page and all
But,
that come out there and play.
I know,
Hank
see, I'm a
Aaron, yeah.
baseball man.
All right.
I'm a baseball
He
man.
was the manager.
And I was the manager of
And the
2
owner.
clubs. And the other was, I was working at Brooklyn Field.
Mm-hmm.
And Arthur Simon, he did too. And I got together and we organized a club down there.
Mm-hmm.
And they had soldiers down there. And we used to,
Oh, at the Brooklyn Field.
yes, Brooklyn Field had soldiers. They
Yeah.
had a troop, they had full of soldiers, white and black.
Now, what was the name of this baseball team?
Who? My baseball team?
Yeah.
Deep South.
Reds.
Oh, at that time, I had
The first
two-
team?
No, the first team was Brooklyn Field. We was named Brooklyn Field at the first time. What was that?
I really
You don't
don't.
forgot.
Can't remember.
Okay. Well, I
I
do
just remember all
No,
that
'cause
baseball equipment. We
Well,
had to look
yeah, I
around
remember.
all the time.
Well,
That
I-
was before you moved in Trinity Garden when you were down there with Brooklyn Field.
Yeah. But
That
I
was in
had
the
that
30s.
club. I had that club.
That was in
Okay.
the 30s.
Yeah,
But you
I
had.
had that club Brooklyn Field, when I had the club.
Baseball team.
I organized a club in Brooklyn.
And Trinity
Trinity
God, the
God.
one we talking about, the
I'm
one you
talking about
organized.
Trinity God
And
School.
Trinity God, the one you organized
Community.
in Trinity God.
And we had uniform and everything.
That was
And
Deep
it
South.
was the Deep South, Red South. There's Trinity God.
Where'd y'all play?
We had a,
All
you know,
over.
you see Interstate 65?
Yes.
Have you been out there?
Mm-hmm.
You know where you got on the Surrey Road down there? When you leave the Surrey, when you go on the Surrey Road, or Interstate, this is Interstate 65.
That's Main
When you
Street.
first get up there, before you get to, you get Chevrolet. Before
Right.
you get there for, back this way.
There's a.
Well, First Avenue, you been on First Avenue?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, then y'all can talk with you then. Well, on First Avenue, you got Nazarene, you know where that church is?
Main Street.
Oh, okay, right there. That's where our down was, right opposite there.
Oh.
Down there where Interstate 65 come in.
Uh-huh.
Well, we was hit, our down was right down there. It was the rag swamp then, was nothing but swamp in there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then we was in the swamp. My outfielder was back. They wasn't in the swamp. They was on the edge of it.
Right.
Well, we was open up there. We had it wide open there.
Who'd y'all play?
Huh?
Who did you play?
We played Mobile
Christian
Black Bear.
Who?
We played we played the Coca-Cola All Star. Choke. And we played Powder. You remember Powder?
Nope.
Do you mean, you remember Henry Avery?
He couldn't.
Hank Avery?
Yeah.
Did you ever see Hank Avery play?
No, sir.
I know you for your time.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I know that too. And so Hank Avery.
And these are all black teams?
All that black.
All
that
black teams.
And
All
we
black
had a team. We had
We
two
still
or three
have some
teams.
older players that
We
live in
had-
Trinity Gardens.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about those days, who they used to play.
I forget so bad. Y'all cut me off.
Go ahead.
I forget. That's what.
Well, tell me this.
Huh?
So you own this team. What did that mean?
Well, that team I own was the Deep
South Red Sox.
Sox.
Mhm.
Okay. And
That
this
mean-
guy,
That
Trey
means
Gardner,
you had to
That
buy
means
the
he had to
uniform.
buy, pay for everything.
Pay for
Bats,
everything.
balls.
Had a lot of fundraising. The
See,
women
y'all
did a
keep
lot of
cutting
cooking.
me off. You keep cutting me
Okay.
off.
What he said,
Y'all
what
go and
that
tell it.
meant?
Go and tell it now.
Somebody.
Well, it really
Don't
meant
go by
that
now, dude.
when he should have been bringing the bread home for me and them children, he was out there buying suits and
Equipment.
equipment for the
Keeping them equipped.
Now,
But I would think that must have been a big thing in terms of leisure activity out
It
there.
was. That
Well,
was the
we
biggest
had, well,
activity
what I'm
we had
trying
in our
to tell you,
neighborhood.
that was organized Trinity God.
Right. The
And this guy, he was he was selling lots out there houses
Sit back down
in
for the
Trinity
camera.
God.
Sit back down for the camera.
Okay. He was selling lots out there.
He gets excited about this.
I didn't cut y'all. Y'all cut me. He was selling lots in Trinity God.
Mm-hmm.
The white man always think hell of the black man. Black man just getting something out of doing. At that time, he was enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
The white man was thinking about making money
Mm-hmm.
with black people.
That's right.
And so he was selling lots. If we could get a ball club out there, carrying his name, he would sell more lots and more houses. You know what I said?
So who was this that was selling lots?
That was John Nickel. He had lot. He had property in Texas. He had bought this place in Trinity God.
Okay.
He was selling that to black people with a little house on. My wife mentioned that a while ago. Little 12 by 18 house.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2 rooms.
So the ball club was like
Huh?
a draw for folks to live out there.
Right. He was helping to support it.
I got you.
So he could sell
That for
more
her
houses.
time.
It was like a sponsorship, what we would call
When he
it
was
now.
sponsoring it, he told me and my sister manager that he would buy our uniform.
I got you.
So the uniform cost about $1,200 at that time.
They had top of the line.
Uniform.
Sure,
We had
Professional.
top. We had uniform spikes and everything.
I remember.
Okay, you remember?
I remember,
Yes.
yes. I was tiny, but I remember all of that. Carrying the bats
Well,
and the
let me-
gloves. It was a lot of equipment,
Okay.
a lot of total.
Well, you the first child born in that family. But anyway, he was
born in this union, talking about that family.
and he was in our family with the first child. But what old man John Nick, he went back to Texas. He found out what he come back. The Clint did the uniform come out. Yeah, I said, I got your bill, you know. He said, good God Almighty, he jump up out his seat. He said, $1,200. Oh yeah, that ain't nothing, man. I said, we got top of the line. I said, we got a good club. He said, I can't know what kind of songs on the club you got. So I ain't got to pay that money. How you ain't? I said, the boys, I went back and told the boys in the meeting he wasn't going to pay for it. He said, how we going to do it? I said, well, we going to pay for it. Y'all asked for so much money out of each man. So they did. They come across with their money. We had, then I said, this will change. Then we said Deep South. We just said Red South. We said real estate. He wanted to have real estate in the backup, our uniform. I said, no. I said Deep South, Red South. Don't put his name in at all. It was a reality, real estate. So we did that. He wanted, how come you didn't put my name in it? I was going to pay for it. I said, no, you said you wasn't. I said, we had to pay for them uniforms. We paid for them.
He ain't paid for them?
Huh? No, he didn't pay a nickel. Not one nickel. And so we paid for them. We had on a Saturday, we're going to have that baseball team from Theodore, from Wilson, All-Star, pretty athletic. We have all them different teams. And on the 4th of July, sure, we have fish frying. And then the other barbecue and all that. Buy a goat for $1.
Truckload
and
of
cook it 2 days. The boys could cook. I had some boy could cook. And everybody, the other, they asked us could they cook on their side. So well, if you we had to pay us $50 or $25. Because we do the same thing with y'all team. We didn't have no everybody could come in and see. We didn't have no stands.
Stands, okay.
No. They were out in the field.
We was out on the ballpark.
So when your daughter comes back home from Talladega,
Who then? My daughter. Okay, all right.
what did you do? What kind of job did you get, Miss DuBoise?
Well, when I graduated from Talladega, I couldn't get a job in Alabama.
Why was that?
I finished school in Alabama. Well, I majored in chemistry and physics and math, and most of the chemical companies and paper companies here say I didn't have any experience. Now, before I went off to college, I needed a college degree to work there, and then when I got out of college, I applied, and they said, well, you don't have any experience, so I took a job in Atlanta, Georgia, as an educator. I had to get certified for Georgia. I started in teaching science, math, chemistry, physics, that kind of stuff. So, I guess I stayed there from 72 to 76. And in 77, I moved back home. My mom got sick, so I came back home. And been here ever since.
Teaching?
Teaching, it's been my primary job, but I've done a lot of this. I've done research. I worked in the labs at South when they finally opened up their medical school. I worked in biochemistry there, so it's been an interesting profession.
Tell me about this group of folks who meet out at the community center who helped to get that rec center built, and that is this the same group that your father worked with the railroad ties, or is this an evolution? I thought it was
children, descendants.
Descendants. And tell me about that and the women's
Bay Area Women's College.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, same family.
Same family, pretty much.
Who was working as their
Descendants, yeah. We
like this is
like
my
three.
daughter
Right.
and my friends' children. Just the children, what we had been working all the time, seeing it just brought them up, and they just filled in when we got so we couldn't.
Well, that's kind of neat and wonderful when you think about it. This tradition of civic activity at Trinity Gardens, long standing.
It's about 12 basic families that pretty much stay involved with civic injustices, I call them. And it's sort of like an innate thing where it's born into your spirit. The ones who are not as active as I am, they're still supporters. They may not be as vocal, but everybody has a role in the family because it is a family tradition, it's a community tradition. Since the Civic Club, you have different personalities, so we have a lot of different organizations that have evolved. We still have the Trinity Garden Civic Club, which my mom now, since this is women's led generation, is the president of the Trinity Garden Civic Club, whereas up until the 80s, late 80s, a woman could not hold that position. They did permit a woman, I think one woman in the 60s was a secretary, didn't you know? I think it was Miss Jenkins who was allowed to be a secretary, but our civic clubs and all of the activists are usually laid on the shoulders of the men. They had to do everything. We were sort of like the supporters of the movement. And now a lot of the men have sort of become I would say not as involved, but not as vocal. They are at all of our meetings and they are active participants, but they're just not as vocal as the women. So it's like the women are coming through evolutionary age, and we're being more vocal than the men. So they're just saying, okay, since y'all want to talk, go on, I'll let you talk.
Tell me
my dad just say,
I want you to, we're having this interview with the Gillespies, but I want you to call out people, living or past, who should be remembered for not only living in Trinity Gardens, but contributing to the health, welfare, and history of Trinity Gardens.
It's a lot of people like.
Well, those that you don't get, we're going to interview more Trinity Garden folks. So
okay, great. I know Miss Trixie, Leona B. Trixie. She was a member of my church as well as a great civil rights activist for our neighborhood. And all of her descendants, which are the Matthews and the Trixies, are very active in the Bay Area Women's Coalition and the Community Watch and all of the athletics. Joseph C. Dodge was an activist. That's why we named the building after him, because he sort of took on the challenge for years to be the president of the Trinity Garden Civic Club group, and he was our mouthpiece for years. We have, so many people. Leonard Evans, who moved out, and now he's real active in another group. But he was the president for years. And the Leatherwoods, Cleveland and Johnny Mae Leatherwood, some of the Leatherwoods are still there. They're very, very strong activists, civil rights crusaders for injustices that were perpetrated on African American people. Miss Chastain, you look at educators, Elizabeth Spencer Chastain, who lived right behind me. She was burned up in her house in 1984 because we didn't have a fire station. That's kind of bad when you think about it. A teacher who really... That's
who the middle school named after?
That's correct. She dedicated her life to educating our children because we didn't have schools out there.
Was there a Miss Packer out there?
Yes.
Could you tell me about Miss Packer?
She lived right around the corner from us. But my mom started the first school in Trinity Gardens, but she doesn't get credit for it.
Oh, really?
She had the first little school. That's what everybody talks about. But when you're living, people don't, they don't remember stuff until you're dead, and then they talk about it. So she started
That's
first
what
school
happened
out
to
there.
Joe Doc, because he wasn't, you know, the first actor, but by him being the president of the civic club, and he was the first to die, he just named it after him.
Because some of the other people, like my father, is still alive, so we felt like the people who were
He
passed.
helped to organize the civic club, but he's still, you know, living. So he named it after. We didn't want it named after him, and he living.
Yeah, sort of honor the dead.
How
I know
did,
we had Otherwoods and Matthews and Trixie's and Dodges and Gillespie's and Evans.
now, in the last 20 years in Trinity Gardens, what have been some of the most significant events or things that transpired? Like, say, since 1980.
80, paving of a lot of the schools, the streets, in the last 20 years. Most important to me is when we got that ditch that we dug. We had 2 ditches on First Avenue, and one was like, it seemed like it was a mile deep, but I guess his history recorded as being like 20 feet deep, almost like a creek, and that was something that the county closed the ditch. That was really important because that was a part of Ermentine Watson's administration. That was the main thing that helped to bring us up to some type of standard of living
Within the city.
Right, we were a part of the city, but we were still treated as stepchildren, and which is a travesty.
Why was that?
Corruption in the government. We didn't have any representation. It was all white, three white men who ran the city of Mobile. And Trinity Gardens is Pritchard and Mobile. So on the Pritchard side, we had corruption, and on the Mobile side, we had corruption.
So this is before the change of government in Mobile city politics in 1985.
That's
when
correct.
they took away the at-large and you could vote for your council person.
That's right. And
so Trinity Gardens has actually benefited greatly from the shift to the mayoral system with the city council and all that business.
right. Before the shift, the only thing we could ever hope for was the little truck coming out spraying for the mosquitoes and for the tractors that the city would send out to scrape the streets. Or if it was real muddy and you got into a lot of people, it was a lot of traffic, they would send out a dump truck to put some gravel. You always had to be worried with health problems like asthmatic people and bronchitis because of those streets and ditches. Now, the thing that I would like to remember about the 80s is that we got the streets paved. We still have the ditches. This is the year 2000, we still have ditches. We have 4 streets that do not have ditches. And 4 streets that have, they don't have ditches, but they do have sidewalks. And that's 1 sidewalk. And we're sort of, that is a significant part of our history. Another thing that I count is that we have fire hydrants. And although we're suffering now from services from the fire, but we have a fire hydrant, but somebody has to come there with a little truck and turn the hydrants on. We've had 1 fire a month. And this is 2000, this is March of 2000. For the last 12 months, we've had 12 houses to be burned.
Burned to the ground?
Well, they get there in time to keep it from hitting the ground, but what they would classify our houses, if you had to judge how much our houses were valued as with the city, our houses were valued between $12,000 to maybe $65,000. but the damages that all of the houses have suffered is in excess of $25,000. So if we wanted to sell our houses, real estate company would pay maybe $20,000 at the most. That's how much they would offer us. But when they burned down, they said you've lost $25,000 worth of damage to your house. So
that's all they give you.
That's all they give us. Another problem we've run into is with insurance companies, it's hard to get homeowners insurance.
Is that because of its location in a former swamp?
That's because of racism that's being perpetrated by, in my opinion, the real estate companies and the way our property is valued by the city and the county, and the way the services are being demonstrated onto our community. If we were given proper police protection and proper drainage and proper attention by all the different entities, then we would not be devalued in the eyesight of the government.
The property would be worth more.
Right. You go right across Mobile Street, which is right across the street. The property jumps in value. And that's because you are now leaving Trinity Gardens and going into Totemville. So I think that's the part of our history that I
recent history.
That's living history. It's the living history for us today.
Well, let me say this to the three of you. I would like to again humbly thank y'all for this past hour, for participating, and hope we get a chance to continue it at another time. But we're at our hour. Thank you very much.
Okay, sure.